Forget everything you think you know about Nick Kyrgios being a carefree showman who merely doesn't care about the game's outcome. That widespread misconception, that easy dismissal, couldn't be further from the chilling truth of a mind locked in an extraordinary, often agonizing battle. We tell ourselves he's just an entertainer, a provocateur, a talent squandered without regret. But what if the very performances we see, the incandescent flashes of genius followed by bewildering self-sabotage, are not expressions of indifference, but rather the visible tremors of an internal earthquake, a desperate struggle for control that few could ever comprehend? What if the show is less about entertainment and more about a deeply complex, almost instinctual defense mechanism against an overwhelming burden? This isn't just about tennis. It's about the terrifying tightrope walk of an athlete whose raw, unfiltered essence collided head-on with the sterile demands of professional sport, creating a spectacle that left spectators awestruck and bewildered in equal measure. This is the story of singular talent, a defiant spirit, and the relentless, unseen cost of being Nick Kyrgios. From the moment he stepped onto the global stage, Kyrgios ripped through the established order with a serve that felt like an act of defiance, an unreturnable cannonade that left opponents flailing and fans gasping. His raw athleticism, a blur of power and balletic grace, allowed him to create angles and retrieve shots that defied physics, turning baseline rallies into improvisational masterpieces. He possessed a natural talent so pure, so uncoached, it seemed to flow directly from the universe through his racket. Who could forget that electric moment in 2014, when as a brash teenager, he became the first male player since Roger Federer in 2003 to defeat the reigning world number one at Wimbledon, stunning Rafael Nadal on center court with a display of audacious power and precision that seemed to announce the arrival of a new, fearless era. But even then, amidst the euphoria, a haunting question lingered. How could such effortless brilliance be so consistently inconsistent? Why did moments of sheer genius so often precede or follow moments of bewildering apathy or outright anger? The promise of a dominant future shimmered tantalizingly, yet felt perpetually just out of reach, like a ghost in the machine. He wasn't just a player. He was a phenomenon, a live-wire presence sparking controversy and adoration in equal measure. The underarm serves, the no-look tweeners, the casual lobs from impossible angles. These weren't mere tricks, but expressions of a creative impulse so profound it bordered on disruptive art. Crowds flocked to him, drawn by the irresistible pull of the unpredictable, the tantalizing possibility of witnessing a shot, a tantrum, or a transcendent rally that would be etched into memory forever. He was a showman, undoubtedly, but his theatrics often felt less like calculated performance and more like an unfiltered outpouring of every emotion coursing through him. One moment, he'd be locked in a trance of pure focus, unleashing serves at 140 miles per hour. The next, he'd be muttering to his box, smashing a racket, or engaging with a heckler, blurring the lines between competitor and participant in a public drama. What was the driving force behind this relentless, emotional volatility? Was it simply immaturity or something far more deeply ingrained, a unique nervous system wired differently, unable to conform to the stoic expectations of the sport? The polarizing nature of Kyrgios became as much a part of his identity as his outrageous talent. Fines accumulated, bans loomed, and the condemnation from traditionalists was often fierce. Yet, paradoxically, his authenticity, however raw and uncomfortable, resonated deeply with a younger generation and legions of fans who felt a kinship with his struggles against perceived authority. He wasn't just defying umpires. He was defying the very notion of what a tennis player should be. In 2020, as devastating bushfires ravaged his home country, Kyrgios, often painted as self-centered, stepped forward with an unequivocal commitment, pledging $200 for every ace he served during the ADP Cup, galvanizing fellow players and raising significant funds. It was a stark reminder that beneath the tempestuous exterior lay a compassionate heart, a profound sense of justice that often sought unconventional, even chaotic, avenues for expression. But this duality, this constant push and pull between hero and villain, between selflessness and self-destruction, begged the most uncomfortable question of all. Could he ever truly reconcile these warring facets of his own being, or was he destined to be perpetually at war with himself, played out on the global stage? The physical toll of his high-octane, emotionally charged game was immense, but often overshadowed by the mental battles. He frequently spoke of his struggles with mental health, of bouts of depression, of feeling overwhelmed by the relentless scrutiny and the crushing weight of expectation. Many fail to recognize that his seemingly effortless athleticism, the fluid power and explosive movements that define his game, is underpinned by a chronic knee condition that has plagued him since his junior days. This hidden battle forces him into a style of play that paradoxically looks casual and spontaneous, but demands immense, hidden physical resilience, often leading to acute pain and further frustration. This constant physical vulnerability, coupled with a profound mental exhaustion, created a vicious cycle. Each injury, each setback, was not just a physical blow, but a psychological one, feeding into the narratives of disappointment and unfulfilled potential. Was his volatile emotional expression merely a coping mechanism, a desperate way to discharge the unbearable pressure and pain that accumulated both inside and outside the lines? Then came Wimbledon 2022, a tournament that promised to rewrite his narrative, to finally deliver on the decades-long promise of a Grand Slam title. He roared through the draws, not without controversy, but with a focus and determination that hinted at a profound shift. The serve was unplayable, the ground strokes blistering, the passion undeniable. He reached the final, facing Novak Djokovic, and for a fleeting moment, the world held its breath, ready to witness the untamed genius finally claim its ultimate prize. The tennis was extraordinary, a masterful display of skill and fight, but the inner demons, though quelled, were not entirely vanquished. He pushed Djokovic, took a set, but ultimately succumbed, leaving center court with a runner-up plate and the world once again pondering the tantalizing, frustrating what if. Was this the peak? Was this the closest he would ever come to conventional glory, a fleeting glimpse before retreating back into the shadows of his own making? The question wasn't just whether he could win a major, but whether his very being allowed him to sustain the level of focused calm required to consistently contend at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. Here lies the core of the enigma, the terrifying truth lurking beneath the surface. His genius is inextricably linked to his chaos. The breathtaking creativity, the instinctual flair, the ability to produce shots no one else dares to conceive. These are all products of an unbound, unfiltered mind that simply refuses to be constrained. But this same refusal to conform, this inherent rejection of structured discipline, makes consistent, conventional success almost impossible. He is trapped in a paradox. The very traits that make him a global phenomenon, that allow him to achieve the impossible, are simultaneously the shackles that prevent him from achieving the predictable, the expected. The unique, emotional energy he brings to the ATP Tour, the raw, visceral connection he has with the crowd, is a double-edged sword. It fuels his peaks but also ignites his deepest valleys. The key fact, chilling in its simplicity, is that the dazzling unpredictability we adore is not a choice, but an involuntary, fundamental expression of his deeply complex psyche. He is not merely playing tennis. He is performing an existential struggle, a battle for his very soul, where the scoreboard often feels secondary to the inner turmoil. The most unsettling realization is that the showman persona, the flippant remarks, the casual dismissals of his own efforts, might not be a mask he puts on, but a shield he desperately needs to survive the sheer, overwhelming intensity of his own mind. Imagine possessing a talent so immense, so undeniable, that it becomes less of a gift and more of a haunting burden, a relentless internal demand for perfection that, when unmet, erupts into explosive frustration. The true fear is that Kyrgios is not just fighting opponents, but battling the very essence of himself, a fight he can never truly win, only momentarily suppress. This isn't just about winning trophies. It's about the psychological warfare waged within, a silent scream against the expectations, the spotlight, the relentless push and pull of a sport that demands robotic consistency from a fiercely human, inherently inconsistent soul. What if the constant self-sabotage, the volatile outbursts, are not deliberate choices, but involuntary tremors from a mind perpetually on the brink, desperately trying to cope with the crushing weight of its own uncontainable genius? The unsettling truth is that he might be a prisoner of his own extraordinary gift, doomed to a life where brilliance and anguish are inseparable, a perpetual dance on the edge of a precipice, with no easy way back. So, what is the ultimate price of being Nick Kyrgios, the global entertainer who electrifies and enrages in equal measure? It is the chilling anxiety that his unique emotional energy, once his greatest strength, may ultimately be his undoing, leaving behind not just a trail of broken rackets and glorious winners, but a profound, unanswerable question mark over a career that promised everything and delivered only fractured glimpses. The final answer lies in the unsettling dread that we are witnessing a slow-motion tragedy, a genius consumed by the very fire that ignites him, leaving us to wonder if the spectacular chaos was worth the unseen cost. His final legacy might not be defined by titles, but by the echoes of a battle only he could truly understand.